What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 7 of my marathon training series. And this week we have a special week because we wrap up June as well as take a look at the first week of July. Also celebrating July 4th, which I'm sure leads to some interesting runs. So let's go ahead, jump on into it. So before we take a look at the calendar, I want to try moving my new quote of the week, quote of the run. I don't know. I still need to come up with a good name for this, but I want to do my quote of the week right now before we jump over to the calendar because I think you'll see why once we jump over there. My quote for this week is always turn a negative situation into a positive situation. And I think that's pretty apt, as you'll see as we move over into the calendar. And I think it's important to keep this kind of thing in mind, and that it's very easy to fall into having negative situations or negative things arise and letting them take you over and letting them influence you going forward. But having the ability to take a step back, take a look at the overall situation, and look at the positives or the silver lining is very important as you continue to learn and to grow. An example of this that happened to me, not last week, but the week before, is that I remember I woke up one morning and I was having a great morning. I was getting stuff done. I was writing, I was cleaning, I was doing all the chores, and it was on pace to be a fantastic day. I was feeling so upbeat because I was feeling so productive and just feeling good. And I remember when I was unloading our dishwasher, I accidentally dropped a plate and it just smashed across the floor. And instantly my day turned because I was so frustrated that I broke a plate that all of a sudden this amazing morning I was having all of a sudden was the worst. It was just in the absolute dumps because now I had to clean it up. I had to feel guilty about breaking a plate. And all of a sudden my mindset, I could feel it. It's such stark contrast to how I was feeling just moments before, that I had to remind myself to take a step back and objectively think about it and decide that no, I'm not going to let this momentary downturn ruin such an amazing morning for me, because before that it was one of the best mornings I'd had in a long time, and I wasn't going to let this moment ruin that for me. And so I'm choosing to, as you'll see when we move over into the calendar, I'm trying to do that again with my long run this week. Not to spoil it here. And in fact, let's go ahead and jump over to the calendar and you guys can see how my week went. So before we take a look at my week in review, I absolutely forgot, but we wrapped up June, which means we need to go back over the statistics that I got for June and be able to look at them, and I can give kind of my quick thoughts on it. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but I did wrap up June with my first run this week. And so let's move down here into this bottom box, and let's take a look at my monthly totals for this week. And so total miles ran 91.01 miles, by far the most miles I've ever put in for an entire month. Total time running, almost 16 hours, also an absolute career best. And I think the next one is probably my most proud stat from this month, an average pace of less than 10 minutes, which is insane to me, and I never thought that I would get there, but here we are, a 9:59 average pace in a month. My average miles per week, obviously 30.34. I did decide to only credit 3 weeks for this, so if we scroll back up, I'd only credited these 3 weeks just because this last June 30th run was only one run, so I don't think that qualified enough for a week. And then obviously the first week of June I missed because I hurt my thumb rather. So I only credited 3 weeks, so that's why the average miles is a bit higher. Average run length comes out to just about 7 miles on the dot. This also, I think I touched on this last week in last week's episode. But my average run length being 7 miles is absolutely insane. And the idea that I'm averaging 7 miles per run is absolutely crazy to me. Number of greens, 13. That means I had 13 runs where I felt like, yeah, that was a great run. Also, this one, so number of yellows is a bit of a different story just because it was primarily this entire first week. I had to miss every run from this week, and so it didn't feel quite right to put red, because to me red is going to purely be either missing it the morning of, missing it just for not, I'm not going to say not is a legitimate reason, but I injured myself. I cut off part of my thumb, and the doctor advised me not to run. Therefore, it's something, an external force and something bigger than just me did this. So that's why I counted 4 yellows. And then overall, how did the month go? It was absolutely green. This was my best month by far. And it truly shows in both the stats as well as just my feelings on it. I absolutely feel like I smashed almost every single run in this month that I at least did. Outside of a couple of tough moments in my longer runs, this month absolutely was the best, and I absolutely can't wait to move forward with these numbers and to try and beat them in July. And as long as I don't miss a week, I think I have a pretty good shot at doing that. So these are my monthly totals for June. Now we'll move over into taking a look at this past week. You've already seen a sneak peek because, as I mentioned, this first run is the last run of June. So let's go ahead and start here. Workout 107, 5-mile interval with 8 sections of 2 minutes fast, 2 minutes recovery. It was a pretty standard interval run, like at 5 miles, 9.5 minutes a mile, just under 48 minutes total. Pretty standard stuff. Intervals, I think, are becoming a lot better for me. I think I still am better at the shorter intervals, so like the 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. Those are definitely going a lot better than, I think a handful of weeks ago there was like a 4 by 10, 10 minutes on, 4 minutes, or yeah, it was like 10 minutes on, 4 minutes off, but for 4 sections or something like that. That one was tough. But for 5-mile interval, 8 by 2, yeah, this one went pretty well. Definitely nothing to complain about. And so now we get to move over to July. So we'll see. We'll start here on Thursday. 7 miles, easy, 11.5. I purposefully slowed down a bit on this. I know my average pace doesn't necessarily reflect that. So 7 miles, 10:16 a mile, just under an hour and 12 minutes. This one was purposefully tried to run slow and then kind of picked it up towards the end as I got closer. Saturday, this one I absolutely tried to slow way down on, and I'm discovering that I think it's really hard for me to run close to 11 minutes a mile now, which, kind of a good thing. So 3 miles, 10 minutes, 40 minutes a mile, and 32 minutes total. And before I touch on Sunday, I just want to talk about how this week went for me physically. While I did mark them all as green, they were very good runs. This was a weird week in that I just felt kind of off all week, where even during my runs, my legs were enormously sore. I thought on Tuesday that was just a reflection of the 16-mile run I had in the previous week before this. And so I thought nothing of it. I did my interval, and I assumed the soreness would just kind of wane. And it did for the most part. The muscles recovered, but my joints, specifically my right knee, was fairly sore for most of the rest of the week, to the point where on Thursday, the 7-mile run, I had to kind of take moments of like taking it really easy, and it was kind of really tough to get into the mindset of settling in and having a good run. I marked it as green because it was a good run, but it was tough. I think my mentally it was tough. Physically it was kind of tough. So it was a good run, but at the same time it was a very taxing run mentally and just physically. them kind of intertwining within themselves. Saturday, I don't think I could ever look at a 3 mile run and say it was hard, but it was definitely kind of the same thing. I wasn't as motivated into it. I wasn't as excited about getting out there and smashing it. And I know it was July 4th, but I still run in the mornings before anything ever really happens. And so I got up, I did my 3 miles. I purposely ran really slow. My knee was still kind of bothering me. It was very sore. It was sore for the rest of the day. And I was really kind of dreading waking up on Sunday and doing the 18 miles to the point where I think it got to me. And when I woke up on Sunday morning, I think I was just so nervous about how I was feeling that it really just didn't feel right. As you can tell by my note, I didn't feel good physically. I didn't feel good mentally. There was no part of me that was excited about going out and doing it. And so ultimately I made the decision that I'm not going to do it. It didn't feel right. I didn't feel right mentally. I didn't feel right physically. And so I ultimately made the decision to not do this one, just to completely miss it, and to take this weekend, this long holiday weekend, as a bit of a mental and physical recovery weekend to kind of reset, and then I can attack next week that much harder. I'm recording this on Monday morning, as I usually do, so I think not running yesterday probably was the right thing to do, and ultimately I think it's going to help me in the long run. And that's where I jump back to my quote of the week, that it's better to make light of a bad situation, and rather than get bogged down in the negative side. So the negative side of having to miss my first run in almost a full month, turning it into a positive of, well, now I get a mental break, a little bit of an extra mental rest as well as physical rest, to then come back stronger for the next week of training and moving forward, and not letting this one run kind of get me down too much. In the past, I would have let this really get to me, and this might have compounded into missing more runs, because I missed one and then that just kind of compounds upon itself, and I'll miss 1, 2, 3, 4 more. But this week I'm choosing to take a step back, look at it in a different light, and it's okay. I marked it as red because of how I felt that in the moment. I don't want to change it to yellow because, as I mentioned in looking back at June, I reserved missing runs as yellow for more external factors than just me. Not to say that the red is inherently bad, but it is an indicator that something wasn't right and I had to miss the run. So looking at the weekly totals, and again, so the way I have these set up is if a run was in June, it will go on the June weeks and June totals. And so this was only tracked to the 2 runs, Thursday and Saturday. So 10 miles, average of 10:27 a mile, just over about an hour and 45 minutes running total for this week. Obviously, total would have been higher if I'd done Sunday, but we touched on that already. But that is kind of what happened this week and the results that I had. So let's go ahead and immediately roll on over into taking a look at next week, where I'm absolutely going to smash it, and we're absolutely going to take advantage and just absolutely kill it. So let's go ahead and just stay right here and move ahead to workouts 111 to 115. And as you can see, there are 5 notes here instead of just my 4 runs. I'm going to do something on Monday today. I'm going to do, whether it be a short run, bike ride, I want to get out and do something to help make up for missing yesterday. What that is, who knows? I'll record the results here. Right now it's kind of up in the air, but there will be an extra column here at the end to track this as well. So quickly moving into Tuesday, 6 miles, 6 minutes of 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off. It's an interval run. It's a Monday. I don't know what you want me to say. So super excited about intervals. The intervals have been some of the most fun just because it kind of breaks up the monotony of just running. So moving over into Thursday, speaking of just running, we have a 6 mile quick, 6 miles, pretty standard. Moving into Saturday, 3 miles easy. I understand this. I may change this 3 mile easy into a 3 mile moderate, kind of how I have been, and I know they did the easy because on Sunday it wanted me to run a half marathon. Obviously, with all of the stuff that's happening right now, that's not really happening. So I'm going to run a half on my own virtually and do it that way, but it's not quite the same as running a true half. So we're going to do it the best we can. And then as I just touched on, Sunday we'll be doing a half. It says half marathon pace. Obviously it wants you to run a half, so you're going to run it at your half pace. So that's the week for this week. I'm really excited to get back into it, especially after missing Sunday. I feel a lot better going into this week. I feel a lot more refreshed. I feel a lot more rested, and I think that's definitely going to help. I'm also excited because I ordered some new workout clothes, which I super needed. The clothes that I have, I've just been kind of using old workout clothes that once I get running become way too heavy, and just way too chafy, and they become really rough and just not conducive for longer distances. So I ordered some new workout clothes, and they should be getting here hopefully today, if not early this week. So I'm super excited about that. But that's going to wrap up my look ahead to next week, and let's go ahead and send it back to the desk and we'll wrap this thing up. That's going to wrap it up for this episode, guys. I hope you understood the bit of a rant I kind of went on in terms of the quote of the week, as well as applying it to my long run for this week. And I'm hoping that I'm not alone in taking that approach. So I would really appreciate that if you like this video, like it down below. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever experienced anything like I did on Sunday, or what you think of the quote of the week and how you've applied it to your training, or anything really. I love hearing from you guys in the comments, so I would really appreciate that. And if you do enjoy these videos, I release them every week, and I'm always looking to expand and add new content to this channel. So if you do enjoy this content, please subscribe. I truly appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys hanging out and watching the video with me. So with that said, I hope you guys have a great week. Go out and smash your training, or smash work, or just go out and smash life in general. Don't let the negative side get you down. Always remember to turn it into a positive. This has been episode 7. I'll see you guys next week.